What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and this is Regular Guy Training. Okay, so I told you guys that I was going to go ahead and do this, so here it is, right? Not too long ago, I just got back from the Mcnamara TMACS course out in South Dakota. I would have liked to go much closer in order to take this class because that was like an 18-hour drive, but that was the one that I could make with my schedule all scattered the way it is. Now, here's the thing. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you guys what I personally got out of it, because there's a lot of people that would get different things out of this individual class. When he first got to the class and all that, and he had everybody together, he started talking about essentially the purpose of the class. And of course, I'm paraphrasing here because I can't remember like the exact words that he used. But essentially, he said that it was that the class is a good benchmark for where you currently are, and it is a good train-the-trainer type class. And he really meant it, like it really shined in what it is that we got out of it. Now, it was a 2-day 500 pistol, 500 rifle round course, and there was a lot of blend between the two. The first day was very, very focused on fundamentals and stuff, and there were a lot of different scoring methods that he used to essentially just check your bullshit on what you think that you're capable of doing after we zeroed our rifles and that type of stuff. So, as far as the shooting aspect and stuff, if you haven't been to a bunch of classes and stuff like that, the layout's really good in that his fundamentals portion really encapsulates a lot of stuff as far as like errors that you would have in your individual fundamentals and whatnot, even whether or not you were experienced or not. The ceiling, quote unquote, that you could get to as far as how well you could was about limitless based on his scoring method. So it worked out really well in that, you know, whether or not it was me that was somebody that was there, or other dudes that had a bunch of shooting experience, or dudes that had no shooting experience, incremental improvements were made by everybody, and he's really big on that. He's really big on incremental improvements. He's also really big on not working people past the point of diminishing returns as far as performance is concerned. So, you know, if you started to get to the point where you were starting to do worse than how you started, you know, he had you just kind of sit off to the side, take a break for a minute, get your mind together and all that stuff, which is really good. So that was the first day. The second day was, it touched more on fundamentals also, but we started to get into footwork. We started to get into varied drills where you have to move around quite a bit, and you yourself are taking down a lot of data, right? So that you can track how well it is that you're doing. Now, as far as what I personally got out of the class, I took a lot away from it. One of the primary reasons why I went there was because the dude has like decades of experience more than I do, right? So I wanted to just sit there and be as quiet as possible and just listen to what he had to say. And I'm very much about simple terminology and then adding complexity as we go, and he's very much of the same mind. He just there were just a bunch of things that admittedly he explained a little bit better than I did with like individual verbiage. Like, for instance, you come to our classes and we start talking about, like in our Pistol 1 class, we start talking about reloads, right? And I essentially say there's two different types of reloads. That's a proactive and a reactive reload. Reactive is when you're in slide lock, you're in the middle of the thing, and you need to put bullets in the gun as quick as possible. Proactive is, did a bunch of shooting, but now because I have a minute to do so, I'm going to go ahead and top the gun off, simply because I feel weird already about having shot this one guy and want to be aware of the fact that a lot of people have friends, right? His explanation was actually quite a bit better than mine as far as just terminology is concerned, because he goes, you know, there's two different types of reloads that you're going to want to do. It's when you want to and when you have to. You want to do things on your own terms, and while you can avoid, while sometimes you can't avoid doing things when you have to, like bolt lock or slide lock, and having to do reloads. Generally speaking, especially in self-defense shoots, if there's a point where you have to do a reload, there's a point in which you have to look at that and say, I kind of screwed up, right? And I loved how he worded specific things. So as a guy that's in like the training field and stuff now, I was paying very close attention to his particular perspective on a lot of things, how he explained certain things, and verbiage was really important for me personally. The shooting portion was a really good gauge for me, but for me personally, just listening to him talk was where I took the most information away. Now again, your mileage may vary because you may want to be on the shooting portion only, to where that's what you're into, that's what you want to do. There's no real interest in teaching people. You just want to do better so you can protect you and yours. And there were a lot of people that were exactly like that and took a bunch away from the class as well. So I'm not dogging the individual drills that were there. The only thing that I can say is that like this is a class where, at a minimum, you needed to have, from what I saw, some kind of individual proficiency with firearms. Like at the very least, you needed to be like that dude who watches a lot of YouTube videos and shadow boxes a lot of it in his house and then comes out and practices it to the best of their ability. You would have started to lag behind, my personal opinion, if you had never drawn a pistol out of a holster before in this particular class. But then again, we didn't have anybody there that was like that, so I can't really say for sure, right? And in the previous class that I took with Pat Mcnamara, it was the same. So I haven't seen that yet. And there was a lot of stuff that was not covered, because this wasn't like a Pistol 1 class where we're building a foundation for a fighting style or whatever. But then again, that wasn't how he described it, right? It was a train the trainer and a good gauge for where you're at. So, I mean, it's not like I can dog any of that. But overall, I would personally say that if you're real into the gun guy stuff, if you've done a little bit of backyard training, or even if you've done a bunch of classes in the past, I would recommend going, mostly because his perspective is unique in that there are a bajillion miles on his individual experience level, and you can take a lot out of it. Another thing is that he's very satirical when he talks about like tactical terminology and stuff. It's actually quite hilarious. But then he'll go and explain some of those words, like proprioception, for instance, and that's the awareness of your individual body and where it is in space, right? But of course, he makes fun of the overusage of those words on a regular basis, which, he's a funny guy to start. Also, it's pretty funny to essentially be taught by the Hulk Hogan of gun guys. It's the best. So I highly recommend it. It was well worth the $500 that I went to spend. Even the range fee that was $44 on top of that. Went out, shot those 1,000 rounds. Between the rifle and the pistol. And the biggest thing that I want when I go to a class is that I need to walk away slightly better than where I was. And I believe I got that. I believe that I got that for sure out of this individual class. So I would highly recommend it, and I would personally, and I would just say go if you're on the fence. So, with all that being said, guys, links for all the stuff that we want you to be involved in are in the description below. Come train with us. We have classes coming up in September, like the dedicated AK class, and then we have our performance rifle and pistol class after that. Link for that website is in the description below, and information regarding it's on the homepage, so you can read up on that and scroll through it, all that jazz. If you want to support us through Patreon and help out like our soldier program, where we bring in soldiers and teach them for free, like all expenses paid. We pay for their flight, their ammo, and if we have to, we supply gear and guns and all that stuff. It really does help. I wouldn't be able to do it without the Patreon people. And if you want a really good deal as far as individual classes are concerned, if you do the $35 a month program, you get the deal to where for a little more than 2 classes a year, you can come and train with us for as long as you're in that program, right? And I'm not taking it away ever. So, in addition to that, I am building the schedule for the next year right now, so there's going to be a much larger selection and dates of what's available very soon. I'm taking the admin time to just go ahead and do that. So that will be up very shortly. And lastly, if you want to join the discussion page on Facebook, there's a link for that in the description below also. So, with that being said, remember guys, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.